Hi everyone, my name's Pieta Valentine. I've written 2 books, The Resident's Voice and The Resident's Rise, both from a dementia unit. And today's session is on deciding which dementia facility your loved one is going to enter. Now, deciding on a dementia facility has a lot of criteria around it, and I'll just outline some of them, the important ones, in today's session. So if you're the sole carer or the sole power of attorney, the only family member in the city, and you're working, then you'll need to try and find a dementia facility which is close to your home. Because if you're spending, half an hour getting there, half an hour returning, that's an hour out of the day, and you're working, how many times a week will you manage to get there? Sometimes, unfortunately, dementia facilities are in cities which are a long way away from where the person may be. That being the case, hopefully, even if your mother has to go to the city and you're living, a couple of hours away, hopefully you've got a friend or someone that you can stay with overnight so that you can, at least when you do come, have one visit in the afternoon and then another visit the next day, say if it's going to be in the weekend. In terms of the dementia facility, if your mother and father, for example, have been living in the village in an apartment, and your mother, say, gets dementia and needs to be go into the facility in the actual village, that's actually an ideal situation, because then what generally happens is that the husband comes to visit the wife each day and will often stay, for a significant length of time. Morning tea, maybe the newspaper reading, a movie maybe if it's on with activities. Often they stay 2-3 hours, even for lunch sometimes. So that's a lovely normalising routine for your mother, having her husband come and be with her for half the day. It's not too different, that different from at home. So that's people that have a husband that does visit and spend some time with them during the day, they adjust a lot more quickly than other people do. Another really important thing to consider is whether the unit is upstairs or downstairs. Now, if your mother is elderly, in her late 80s, early 90s, and maybe has been in the nursing home downstairs, if she's not that mobile, if she doesn't, go outside on her own volition because her walking is not really up to speed, then with her going from downstairs to upstairs, especially if she's got some friends who have been in the nursing home downstairs with her and have gone up to the dementia unit, often the case, and she knows these people, then going upstairs to be with them and having a couple of friends there is really excellent for adjusting. So, but if the person is younger and fit and active, and they've, always enjoyed walking and being outside and sports, etc., and just the general routine of being out and about, and then they are confined drastically to a 24/7 institution, as a dementia unit is, it's really important for these people to be in a facility that has grounds that they can walk around in, not an upstairs facility where there's only a little tiny veranda if you're lucky. They need to be able to get out and about in the fresh air, with the grass and the trees and the birds and things, if they're used to that. Otherwise, it's so severely distressing if they can't have that. So really try and see if you can get a dementia facility and make the priority that they've got some outside area that they can walk around in, and then they will be able to adjust a lot more easily. Another thing to take into consideration when deciding on which dementia facility is that when you actually go and visit the facility, often what happens is that the manager, this village manager, will often take you around, and it tends to be a pretty brisk visit, 8 minutes, say, because they're busy, flat out, and it's quite hard to orientate to a whole new environment in 8 minutes, So I would suggest that you say, look, would you mind if we just sit down, say if you come in with your husband, would you mind if we just sit down for 10-15 minutes and have a cup of tea and, you know, orientate ourselves to the place while we're making a decision? Then you can sit down and you can have a much better idea of the atmosphere of the place, you know, how the residents are they happy, are the staff friendly, does it look organised, is the furniture comfortable, you can see the facilities, you can also see the room layout, which is actually really important, because if your mother, for example, likes gardening and flowers, it's nice for her to have a view onto the courtyard. Whereas if your husband's entering the unit and he's a farmer, then it's nice if he has, you know, a view of the hills and the green pastures. Some people actually like looking out at cars, interestingly enough, so there's sure to be a view of cars, you know, in the main road. That's an easy one. But whichever is the preference for your, you know, the view that you know your relative will enjoy, just try and get that with the rooms. The other thing to consider, taking into consideration that sometimes it's really quite difficult even to get a room in these places, but still, if there's any manoeuvrability at all and flex, just request anyway, and then, you know, chances are you may get this. The other thing is, if your relative is not that mobile and they have difficulty walking, then, you know, it's easier for them if they can get a room that is closer to the nurse's station. So from the lounge to the nurse's station to their room, if it's just 20 metres, it's much easier for them to get to that than if the room is at the end of the corridor, where they have to walk often 40 metres there and back. So all of these considerations in terms of which facility will suit your loved one. It's more important really that it's not efficiency and professionalism is really not the thing so much as it may well be the thing in hospitals, but in a dementia facility it's more about a facility that's friendly, welcoming, homely, and that there are good activities going on, because the person does need that positive stimulation. So you can see there, and you can ask for a activities calendar. They'll often give you that, so you can see what the activities are throughout the day, the week and the month. So these are some aspects to consider in terms of going into a dementia unit. And yeah, it takes time to find the right place, and certainly time needs to go into it. And it's an important decision because, you know, once the person's there, then it's a pretty final. But once they're there though, then of course you can work with the staff and make the room nice and friendly and homely, and that actually makes an enormous difference in terms of the person being able to settle in when they've got all their familiar things around them, of which I've gone into other videos in this in quite a lot of detail. So that's it for today. I'll leave the links below for the 2 books, and all the very best for those of you out there that are, you know, on that difficult road of having to find a dementia facility for your relative. But the main thing I can say is to be prepared. You know, there's so much actually to do, there's so much to learn, there's so much to know, and the more that you're prepared for all of this, the better. So the next video I will do on preparing the relative actually for when their loved one goes into a unit, because there's a lot of preparation on that. So thank you for your views and your subscribing and your interest, and please subscribe so that we can, you know, support this cause of these wonderful residents, and so that they can get the facilities and the support that they deserve in these facilities. Thank you.